Minister, Jens Stoltenberg, but Madeleine did. She also knew, and more impressively could pronounce, the names of Greenland's Prime Minister, Hans Enoksen, Iceland's Prime Minister, Johanna Sigurðardóttir, Mauritania's President, Mohammed Ould Abdelaziz, Benin's President, Yayi Boni, and so on. Madeleine staunchly believed that all of the 192 member states represented at the United Nations deserved to be studied. Madeleine would gladly spend the summer at Brunswick School for Girls if it meant eclipsing her parents' plan for her. She would live off the drinking fountain and vending machine. She simply needed to make sure she had enough coins. The idea began to take shape. Madeleine could ravage the library, devouring books by the armful, skip through the hall, and sleep in the immaculate infirmary. A summer at Brunswick would be utterly delightful. Regrettably, Madeleine's plea to stop the bell was flatly denied at exactly 3 p.m. The piercing sound rang through the grand halls of Brunswick, inciting a stampede of girls in sharp navy and white uniforms. Much like the running of the bulls in Pamplona, the rush to leave school was a dangerous event. Luckily, this wasn't an issue for 12-year-old Madeleine. She had long insisted on waiting 10 minutes for the children, nannies, and parents to clear the front of the school before leaving her chair. On that particular day, Madeleine was so drowning in dread that she lingered in the classroom for an extra 45 minutes before exiting. She mentally alphabetized the list of United Nations delegates as a means to pass the time. Madeleine knew her mother and the driver were waiting. However, she had to summon the courage to face summer. It is a rather lamentable fact that few can call upon courage with the expediency they can fear, and Madeleine was no exception. Mrs. Masterson, keenly attuned to her daughter, had expected the delay and brought the Herald Tribune to read. Fortunately, she found the plush interior of her chauffeured Range Rover far more relaxing than the couch in her drawing room. After reading every pertinent story, Mrs. Masterson flipped the newspaper over just in time to see Madeleine, nearing Brunswick's Victorian-style main gate. She exited the car as Madeleine emerged from the shadows, wearing a netted veil and a belt of aerosol cans. The young girl wildly sprayed the air around her while speeding toward her mother. "Hello, darling. How was school?" "Very well, Mummy. Thank you for asking. May I inquire whether the car has been fumigated today?" "Of course, Maddie." "I do hope you're not fibbing, Mummy. I can tell the difference. My nose is quite discriminating." "Fibbing? That's ludicrous. I assure you the car has been thoroughly fumigated today." "Thank you, Mummy. Aren't you going to ask why I'm late?" "No, darling." "Very well, then. Now, if you don't mind, I'd very much appreciate a quarrel and subsequent grounding, perhaps one that lasted the entire summer, or if necessary, even longer." "Don't be afraid, Maddie. It's going to be like camp," Mrs. Masterson said cheerfully. "I've been to the cinema, Mummy. Camps have poorly insulated cabins with spiders, millipedes, and cockroaches that will climb all over me. I can't possibly spend the summer in such squalor." Madeleine's intense and obsessive fear of spiders, insects, or bugs of any kind greatly distressed her parents. It was an all-consuming fear that affected every aspect of her life, from school to sleep. In the evenings, Madeleine prayed for a spider-free night before climbing beneath a canopy of thick mosquito netting. Already shy by nature, Madeleine had a fear of spiders and bugs that created an additional barrier for her to conquer socially. Madeleine often remained at home, unwilling to stay in any structure that hadn't been fumigated recently by exterminators. The brightly colored stripes of an exterminator's tent gave her the warmth and excitement that most children reserved for birthday or holiday gifts. Regrettably, few parents at Brunswick were willing to meet the costly and time-consuming demands of the young girl behind the netted veil. In an effort to pinpoint the exact origin of Madeleine's fear, the Mastersons racked their brains for traumatic incidents involving spiders or bugs. They came up empty every time. As early as Madeleine's first birthday, they remember her crying fervently at the sight of a daddy-long-legged spider. With time, Madeleine's fear became more hysterical and extreme until the Mastersons could no longer rationalize it as a normal childhood stage. At 6 years of age, Madeleine drove herself into a panic-stricken state, complete with heart palpitations, after she watched a grasshopper slip through the front door. She became obsessed with the idea of the musically inclined creature.